All right, welcome. You ever wonder how those incredibly complex apps on your phone or computer actually get built? Well, the answer, more often than not, boils down to this one single powerful idea: the class. It's like the blueprint for pretty much all modern software. So let's dive in and break down what it is and, why it's just so darn important. So let's start at the very bottom. At the most basic level, a computer only understands this: just a massive, unreadable sea of ones and zeros. Now, for a human programmer, imagine trying to create something complex out of that raw code. It'd be like trying to build a skyscraper with nothing but loose sand. It's pure chaos. Okay, so how on earth do programmers bridge that gap, right? How do you turn all of that chaos into the clean, functional software that we all use every single day? That is the fundamental problem we're here to talk about. Well, the first big leap forward was realizing we had to stop thinking like a machine and start thinking a lot more like a human. It was this huge shift away from chaos and towards organizing code into these simple, understandable little bundles called objects. You see, to manage all that complexity, programmers came up with something called levels of abstraction. The best way to think about it is like a ladder. Way down at the bottom, you've got that raw, messy binary code. But as you climb up, each rung is like a new language that gets you further away from the machine and a whole lot closer to how we humans actually think. One of the early approaches was something called procedural programming. Now, the logic here was pretty straightforward. You'd keep all your data in one big box and all your tools, what we call functions, in another. But, and this is a big but, as programs got bigger, this became a massive problem. Just imagine a workshop where any tool could be used on any material, whenever. It would get messy, fast. It's chaos. And this is where the big shift really happened. So if you look at the procedural model, it's a total free-for-all. Any function can just go in and modify any piece of data, and that leads to some really unpredictable results. But then you look at object-oriented programming, or OOP. See how the data and the functions that actually use that data are bundled together? They're in these neat, self-contained objects. It's organized, it's predictable, it's just clean. And that right there gets to the absolute core of it. OOP lets us model our code based on things in the real world. Think about it. A car object, well, it has properties, right? Like its color or its current speed. And it has behaviors, like accelerate or brake. Thinking about code this way, man, it was a totally revolutionary leap forward. Okay, so if we're building with these objects, how do we actually make them? This is where probably the single most important analogy in all of programming comes into play: the blueprint and the house. That blueprint, that's what we call a class. Now, a class isn't the thing itself, not at all. It's the detailed plan for how to build the thing. It's the template, you know? It specifies all the characteristics and all the actions that a certain type of object is going to have. And honestly, it's the perfect analogy. You see the architect's blueprint over there? That's your class. That's the detailed plan. And the actual house that gets built from those plans? Well, that's your object, a real, tangible thing you can see and interact with. Now, in the world of programming, we have a fancy word for this process: instantiating. It just means an object is an instance of a class. So let's get that straight. The class is the blueprint, and the object is the instance you create from that blueprint. And this is where the real magic happens: reusability. I mean, you don't draw a brand new blueprint for every single house, right? No, you use one blueprint to build an entire neighborhood, and it's exactly the same in code. From just one car class, you can create thousands of unique car objects: a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, an electric car, whatever. They're all different instances, but they all come from that same fundamental design. All right, so let's peek inside. What exactly goes into one of these blueprints? What kind of information does a class actually hold? So pretty much every class has three essential parts. First up, you've got attributes. These are just the properties or the state of an object. So for our car, that'd be its color, its model, its current speed. Simple enough. Second, we have methods. These are the actions, the behavior. This would be things like start engine or change gear. And last but not least, the constructor. This is a special set of instructions that kicks in automatically to build the object the moment it's created. Let's make this even more real. A simple light bulb. It's a perfect example. What's its key attribute? Its state. Well, it's just whether it's on or off. And its behaviors, its methods, those are the actions you can take. Switch on and switch off. That's it. The class just bundles that simple piece of data and those two simple actions all together in one neat package. And what about that constructor thing? Well, think of it like the foreman at a factory. The second you say, hey, I need a new light bulb object, the constructor is the special method that gets called automatically. It grabs the blueprint, follows all the instructions to the letter, and then hands you a fully built, ready-to-use object. Pretty cool, huh? But you know, one of the most brilliant things about classes goes way beyond just being organized. It's about safety. More specifically, it's about protecting an object's data from getting messed up. I mean, think about it. If you're the architect, how do you stop someone from just waltzing in and knocking down a load-bearing wall on a house you designed? You can't have that. So, in programming terms, the question is, how do you protect the core integrity of your object? The solution is something we call access control. Classes let you label their internal parts as either public or private. Now, anything marked public, well, that can be accessed from anywhere. But anything marked private is locked down tight, accessible only by the object itself. And the key rule of thumb here, the big design principle, is to keep your data private, always. And you can see that right here. The width and length data, they're private. They're locked inside. So outside code can't just reach in and start messing with them. Nope. Instead, it has to go through these public methods, which act like gatekeepers, things like setWidth or getWidth. This makes sure that the data is only ever changed in a safe, controlled way. This super powerful idea is called data hiding, and it is absolutely fundamental to building software you can actually rely on. All right, let's bring this all home. Why was this shift to using classes, this whole idea of thinking in blueprints, such a massive game changer for programming? It really boils down to three superpowers. First, incredible code reuse. You write one blueprint and then you can build as many objects from it as you could ever need. Second, protected data. By hiding all those internal details, you make your code way safer and a lot less likely to have bugs. And third, real-world modeling. It lets us tackle these huge, complicated problems by breaking them down into simple, manageable objects that just make sense. At the end of the day, a class is so much more than just a programming construct. It's really a tool for creativity. It's the mechanism that allows a single developer or even a huge team to take a really complex idea and actually build it into something tangible, something that works. Think about it. From the apps on your phone to the operating system running your computer, pretty much everything is built from these blueprints. They are the fundamental building blocks of our digital world. So really, the only question left is, what will you build with them?